Hi everyone, my name is Bushra and my group members Amanpreet, Anureet, and Michelle are going to speak to you today regarding our work plan and our analysis of the 4 curriculums for this assignment. Next slide, please.
This will be our agenda for today's video. We will discuss our work plan that we used in order to achieve our goals. Next, we will each discuss the curriculums we focused on and link them back to our course readings that we have done so far. Finally, we can bring it all together in our conclusion, and we hope you enjoy our presentation. Next slide, please.
Okay, so for our work plan expectations, we came together and we came to an agreement that everyone would contribute to our assignment as per assigned task. Also, just to give some of the audience some feedback, we created goals and expectations that as a group we must adhere to. So some goals were to communicate. So everyone is expected to communicate via the WhatsApp group, either via chat or phone, but we must be very professional during those calls. We must be respectful of others towards their ideas and thoughts. And just an overall expectations as a group members, we must complete our assigned task in a timely manner that was provided. And throughout the span of 3 weeks, we also arranged dates for our parts to be due. We also thought it was very important to include check-in days in order for us to be successful. Next slide, please.
Okay, let's start with the Ontario Kindergarten Program. Now we're going to talk about something absolutely fundamental in ECE, the importance of well-being and its promotion. It's a topic close to our hearts, and we'll explore how it's not just a buzzword, but a crucial element in shaping young minds. This program is a testament to the commitment to well-being in education. In a world where there is well-being of children and it's often overlooked, this program stands out. It incorporates well-being to its standards and pedagogy, and it recognizes that well-being isn't just about physical health. It doesn't encompass a child's emotional, social, and cognitive development too. Now, how does this connect to Peter Moss's work? Peter Moss reminds us that well-being isn't just about what's in our minds, it's also about what's around us. His work emphasizes the significance of the learning environment and social interactions. Picture this: a thoughtfully designed classroom with vibrant and endless learning opportunities. That's what Moss encourages. When children are in an environment that fosters curiosity and exploration, their well-being blossoms. Moss also underscores the importance of social interactions. The learning environment is not just bricks and books, it's also the laughter and sharing among young learners. When children have the chance to engage with their peers, collaborate, and communicate effectively, their social and emotional development soars. This kind of environment can lead to happier, more resilient children. The Ontario Kindergarten Program emphasis on well-being isn't just an educational trend. It's a philosophy that recognizes that when we nurture well-being, we're nurturing the very essence of our children. Next slide, please. We're going to dive into another critical aspect of early childhood education, that is, the significance of environmental and institutional factors. We'll also explore how the IELTS assessment plays a crucial role in evaluating early learning domains and its connection with their perspectives of TS. Let's start with understanding the role of environmental and institutional factors in early childhood education. This perspective is highlighted a lot in the framework, and it relates to the study by Hogg, who reminds us that educational traditions are deeply connected to the environments in which they are situated. Hogg's work underscores that the early childhood education isn't about what just happens within classroom walls. It's about the broader context, the communities, the resources, and the support systems. Now, how does all this relate to the IELTS assessment and what role it plays in early childhood education? The assessment, or the International Early Learning and Child Well-Being Study, is designed to evaluate early learning domains such as emerging reading, emerging numeracy, self-regulation, empathy, and trust. The crucial part is that how the IELTS assessment influences early childhood education. It provides policymakers, researchers, and early childhood educators with credible and comparable data on children's early learning. Diaz reminds us that this assessment has the potential to improve ECE services by providing the data needed to make informed decisions. The IELTS assessment imposes a shift. It changes our understanding of early childhood education from narrow, utilitarian, and decontextualized concept to one that acknowledges the diversity of ways of being, knowing, and doing. All in all, the significance of environmental and institutional factors, as highlighted by Hogg, is crucial to understand how early childhood education is shaped. The IELTS assessment bridges this understanding, connecting with Diaz's perspective and providing the data that can lead to more informed and contextually relevant early childhood education. These are the main themes or priorities that I found interesting in the Ontario Kindergarten Curriculum Framework. And now let's move forward to Bushra to know what she has to say on this.
The Ontario Kindergarten Program is a child-centered, integrated program for learning for 4 and 5 years old. This program is based on the view that children are competent and capable. This aspect resonates with Malaguzzi's image of the child who is rich in potential, is competent, and is connected to the world around him. There are 4 frameworks in the kindergarten program. The first one is belonging and contribution. This aspect of the frame addresses children's learning and development through their interaction and connectedness to others and their understanding of the community and the natural world around them. The second aspect of the framework is engagement and expression. When children are able to explore the world around them with their natural curiosity, they are fully engaged. As educators, the best way to engage children is by actively listening to them and showing interest, as well as encouraging open-ended questions and engaging them in meaningful conversations. Expression helps children to articulate their feelings. For example, activities like art and craft or drawing encourages expression. Well-being is another aspect that I would like to talk about. Well-being of a child is very important for overall development, including confidence building and developing a strong and emotional balanced way. My second priority in kindergarten program was play-based learning. Play is recognized as the right of the child, and it is essential for optimum development. Play develops a child's cognitive, physical, and social skill, as well as emotional well-being. In the curriculum document, play is said to be the vehicle of learning. Educators respond, challenge, and extend children's play and inquiry-based learning by observing, listening, and provoking ideas. I will connect this priority to OECD's reading on improving early equity 2002, which describes play as a natural inbuilt mechanism for learning and well-being. Another aspect on play-based learning in the same article writes about middle ground perspective on play-based learning, which is actually play-based learning is a very Western European concept of the framework. The middle ground perspective to play-based is child-initiated or child-centered play on one end and adult-directed on the other end. So the overall goal of kindergarten program in Ontario strongly believes in high-quality program, which is essential for school readiness as well as the future lives of children. Next slide, please.
So I will begin by first saying that I did not put the direct quote into the PowerPoint as it is a little bit long, so I did paraphrase it here, but I will say the direct quote right now. And the direct quote emphasizes on diversity, in my opinion, which is First Nations envision a system of diverse, high-quality programs and services that lies the foundation for health and well-being of First Nation children, provides choices for families, and revitalizes and supports the culture continuity of First Nation communities and nations. So for me, a priority was diversity. And after analyzing this quote, I made a connection to the Flemish cases in Belgium. And the sort of connection I found was the disconnection between the indigenous ELCC and the Flemish cases, because the Flemish cases schools stated that children who did not speak the Flemish language were not able to perform well in those schools, and the Flemish speakers were not willing to make accommodations for children who spoke in a different tongue. Whereas the Indigenous ELCC ensures that all children from all First Nation groups are incorporated within building a curriculum. They did not single anyone out or exclude. Instead, what the curriculum did is they identified all nations and incorporated each nation's values and important aspects within wanting to build a curriculum for their children. I made a comparison to the author of Helen Penn, who mentions that children rely heavily on their families and communities. It would seem very inappropriate that we do not create curriculums that demonstrate the diversity that comes within children and what they bring from their families and communities. The second priority, I paraphrase, was in traditional Indigenous societies, all members of the collective contribute in diverse and value roles in raising of children. Here, we can see that the priority focuses on a community-based inclusion. After analyzing this quote carefully, I made the connection to the OECD article, the Improving Early Equality article, that talks about having active parent/guardian participation in order for children to have high learning outcome. The OECD acknowledges that in order for children to become successful in their learning, the conversation must not be only within the child and educator, but it also must involve the parents and guardians. The OECD also acknowledges that educators must communicate with parents, but the same goes for parents to communicate with their child. The connection here is that the Indigenous ELCC and the OECD article both emphasize that families are an essential and crucial part to children's learning. After analyzing this quote very carefully, I found that this was a very different approach from what the IELS approach is aiming to do. The IELS aims to create a standardized test that focuses on a one-style-fits-all approach, and in this case, that's not it. The difference here is that the Indigenous ELCC values the diversity that comes within all children and their communities. The Indigenous curriculum acknowledges that there is no one form of learning and there is no one form in receiving learning. There are a variety of ways to convey a learning message, not just through a board and a pen, but the Indigenous communities value that all members within society contribute to raising children within their community. Next slide, please.
So building on what Michelle said, the two priorities that I found in the Indigenous curriculum, first one is that there was involvement of Indigenous community in bringing forward the curriculum. The curriculum was made up after taking 100 engagement sessions in which the community people came together and they put forward what they would like to be in the curriculum, what the children will be learning. The document states that that the First Nation leadership was used to guide and direct regional coordination, which supported the program and services by community engagement, quality support, and partnership. The other priority that I found was that there was a focus on teacher training, which was in First Nations, Métis, and Inuit sections of the curriculum. The curriculum aims to influence the post-secondary institutions to include the Indigenous content and curriculum in the coursework. The curriculum states that there should be a clear focus on creating material that can support the training of educators so that they can learn how to teach about cultural values and cultural materials and language to the young children. Now, analyzing the first priority of community involvement, I can see that the reason they had the community people input their voice was because they wanted to make a framework which was more understandable and translatable for people. The cultural identities dictate how children will be learning in the classroom. For example, although play-based learning is advocated in Hong Kong, it does not necessarily look the same as in Western countries because it's culturally situated. The parents there are not against play-based learning. They just do not consider it to be efficient in preparing the children for later schooling. So having the parents' voice heard actually makes the curriculum more effective for the children. In the Indigenous curriculum, it is evident that they focus on the child as nature and they value the holistic development of the child, which is a bit different than the thoughts that were shared in the OECD reading Shape of Things to Come, where the IELS provides focus on assessment, but it does not take into account or pay any attention to the culture or diversity of ways of being, knowing, and doing in the world. The cultural diversity was one of the reasons why 33 countries out of 36 participant countries in OECD testing, they denied to participate. And comparing the Indigenous curriculum with other curriculums, I found that there was a similarity between the New Zealand Te Wariki curriculum and the Indigenous curriculum here in Canada in terms of both curriculums being based off of bicultural societies, different cultural societies. So in the New Zealand curriculum is influenced by Maori background, which is strong and well-articulated cultural tradition. And in the Indigenous curriculum, it gives equal importance to Métis, First Nation, and Inuit population and takes into consideration each one of their priorities. And talking about the second priority, I felt that training the early childhood educators, it was an important goal because the educators are the ones who are implementing the curriculum in the classroom. So if they are trained to use culturally sensitive material or to use the cultural language or appropriate material in the classroom, then they will transfer the culture to the children. And as it's highlighted in chapter 2 as well that the educators are co-constructor of knowledge and culture. So the educators can actually support this more appropriately, but only if they are trained to carry on the language and the culture. And it's well supported in the argument presented in chapter 1, where it says that when transferring the culture, people often try to copy and transfer it to the younger generations, and they often fail. The reason for that is because the transfer of culture is linked to learning. If a person wants to transfer the culture, they should first learn about the culture and then teach the children.
So we will now be talking about the Quebec preschool cycle program. And the first priority that I saw, which I stated here, is it comes from community inclusion. And the quote follows, the school team, the family, and the community share the responsibility of working on behalf of the child. The connection I made between the priority and the example is that I saw the importance that the community and families play such an important role when it comes to children's learning. For example, in the OECD article written by Edwards, she states that children come into education with certain cultural beliefs and values that they hold near and dear to them. And it is us as educators to continue to create that space for them to be able to express it. So we need to create an environment that not only represents one sort of community, instead we need to provide activities and environment that supports all diverse learning, because essentially that's what children are. They're diverse beings. And an interesting comparison I made that I was able to link with the Quebec preschool cycle program was it's similar to the beginning stages of the Norwegian education that Huang mentions in his chapter. In the beginning stages, the Norwegian schools, they valued, or sorry, families and parents and families valued that children learning at home through play was such an important thing to them, right? So they believed that they can also receive a form of education by being at home with their families. My second priority focuses on the holistic child. That is the priority I got from reading this quote, which is, it is vital that all areas of development be accorded equal importance and be dealt with in synergy, sorry. After analyzing the quote, I found that the best comparison to this description was made by Dellenberg, who talks about Reggio and Malaguzzi, and they talk about solely focusing on the rich child. Reggio and Malaguzzi are two well-known theorists and important people in our field who say that we cannot just build a curriculum that solely revolves around the academics. We must take into consideration the whole child, and we must prioritize the child's learning experience and what the child's outcomes wishes to be. And on a separate note, an observation that I made, the word cycle is a reoccurring theme and a lot of images revolving the cycle. And I think that's an important, they did that on purpose, because we shouldn't think of education or learning as a linear process, but essentially everything goes back to the child. Everything we wish to change or make better, we always go back to the child. So it's never a straightforward linear journey. It's always linking it back to the child. So we're always going it back to the child. And I felt that that was very important that they incorporated the cycle in it. So now I will pass the learning on to Bushra.
Hi. So my two priorities for the Quebec preschool cycle program are, first, their focus on global child development, and second, as Michelle also mentioned, school, family, and community collaboration or partnership. Fostering global development to all children with the intention of promoting children's growth in every area of development, for example, cognitive, emotional, physical, social, motor, as well as language, and at the same time providing children activities based on their abilities and interest and their cultural backgrounds. Also, this program offers global development for all children by taking preventive actions to meet their needs. Children learn skills based on their level of development, both current and potentials. I would like to connect Quebec's framework with Ontario early year curriculum, which is how does learning happen, which says children's experiences, activities, interests, and events during the early years in a safe and inclusive learning environment foster children's well-being, their learning and their development. Also, meaningful participation of every child is emphasized in both curriculums. Talking about my second priority in the Quebec preschool cycle program, which is working together in partnership between school, families, and the community on behalf of the child. Being in the field of early childhood education, I also believe that engaging families in early years is very important for supporting child's development and learning. Family involvement has very positive outcomes. Strong partnership between educators or school, parents, and children is one of the keys to quality early learning and care. In chapter 8 of our book, Moss writes that that parents' voice is very important for supporting a child's development and learning. He further writes in the same chapter that it is not possible to respect the child without respecting the parents. The partnership between families, communities, and schools act as a bridge, and it helps to build a relationship, thus enhancing child's learning and development. Next slide, please.
Let's move on to Saskatchewan's Play to Be curriculum framework that boldly discusses about holistic learning. So what exactly is holistic learning? In a sense, it's about understanding that a child's growth isn't limited to their cognitive abilities. It encompasses their emotional, physical, and social development as well. Holistic learning is about nurturing a child's curiosity, creativity, and individuality. It's acknowledging that a child is more than the sum of their academic achievements. Now let's talk about how sensory exploration contributes to holistic development, especially within the context of Saskatchewan's framework. Sensory exploration is about allowing children to actively engage their senses, touch, sight, smell, hearing, and taste. When children immerse themselves in sensory experiences, they're not only acquiring knowledge, but also developing emotionally, socially, and physically. The Reggio Emilia approach, a renowned educational philosophy, values the 100 languages of children. This means children express themselves through various senses, such as touch, sight, and smell. Sensory exploration is the gateway to understanding the world around them. And there's another perspective that aligns perfectly with holistic learning, the child-centered approach advocated by Dewey and Moss. This approach respects children as active participants in their own learning. It recognizes that sensory exploration isn't just about acquiring facts but about constructing knowledge. Holistic learning in a nutshell is about nurturing every aspect of a child's growth, not just their academic progress. Sensory exploration, as emphasized by Saskatchewan's framework and the Reggio Emilia approach, is a powerful way to do this.
Talking about just building on what Anureet just said, because holistic development of child was one of the biggest priority in the Saskatchewan curriculum. The framework supports children's development and it focuses on social, emotional, physical, intellectual, and spiritual development. And the idea is to provide children with the experiences that will enrich their abilities and provide them with the relationships that make them feel belonged and they are in an environment where they can flourish through play. The second priority is that they talk about various roles of educators and focus on reflections and observations that the educators do and the importance of it. The observations are used to review processes, reflection, and analyzing children's learning, which becomes the foundation for program planning. This is a quote from the curriculum. The documentation that the educators collect within the shared experiences and children's learning journey can be shared with parents. Making observations and then reflecting can help the educators know how they can best support children's interests as well.
We'll now discuss the potential impact of standardized testing, the significance of inclusivity, dialogic pedagogy, and the connection between social-emotional skills and cognitive development according to the Saskatchewan's framework, which I thought was a priority in the whole curriculum. This relates to the urban reading that reminds us that standardized testing can sometimes pressure educational systems to adopt a narrow, one-size-fits-all approach. This can hinder the inclusive practices so vital for addressing diverse needs and promoting equity. Inclusivity is a cornerstone of ECE, and it's essential for ensuring that every child, regardless of their background or abilities, receives the support they need. Dialogical pedagogy encourages interactive and collaborative learning experiences, and it values the voices and perspectives of every child, creating an inclusive space where diverse needs are acknowledged and celebrated. Now let's delve into the link between socio-emotional skills, curiosity, and cognitive development, as indicated by the OECD's perspective. The OECD perspective underscores that a child's socio-emotional skills are integral to their cognitive development. But how is a child's curiosity influenced by the environment and their early learning experiences? The answer is that curiosity is innate in children, but the world around them can either encourage and increase it or suppress and reduce it. Let's work together to create inclusive environments that empower our children.
This curriculum is actually rooted at providing children with opportunities for free play. The quality learning environments, they focus on providing the opportunities to the children so that they can develop, not just academically, but the holistic development of the child. The idea is to not get the children ready for the compulsory school education, but to actually build life skills so that the children can gain more during their childhood years through play. This is different from the Asian perspective, where academic learning or school readiness are given priority, and the focus is more on instruction than self-directed play. And it also relates to the image of child that is presented in the curriculum. It relates to Dalberg's image of child, where he values the early childhood education as to see the child in a holistic view and give them the opportunity for free play so they can show creativity and express ideas and feelings. The play to be curriculum can be related, and it's similar and can be related to Ontario kindergarten curriculum, where the image of the child is that the child is considered competent, curious, and capable. And the similar image is also shared in the BC curriculum. The British Columbia curriculum also regards the children as gifts, and they are strong and unique and full of potential. The Ontario and Saskatchewan curriculum, their definition of the role of educator as a facilitator, observer, and a co-learner is also similar. Now, the priority was about different roles that the educator plays in the curriculum. This relates to the process quality, the interactions, the content, the routine, the resources. Those are the main features of process quality. And those are the main features that the Saskatchewan curriculum focuses on. With all the different roles that the educator plays, observing and documenting the children's learning becomes important ones. And the British Columbia curriculum also shares the same roles for the educators, where the emphasis is on how observant is an educator. And the reason why the reflection is critically important when working with children is because we need to understand different meaning-making processes of the children. And if we do that, we can scaffold their learning better. Some final thoughts, just concluding the presentation, is that all the curriculums, their main focus is the child. The child is the center of all, and the approach may be different based on the culture or the region, but just like Michelle said, it's a cycle, and it begins with the child and it ends at the child. Some documents, such as the Indigenous curriculum, they have been synthesized using the opinion of people as to what they would like the children to know. Having a written guiding document as a curriculum helps, but what makes the curriculum is the pedagogy and how the educators use them in their classrooms. But regardless, it is interesting to note that whatever happens during policy making or while making big decisions as to what should be prioritized while implementing the curriculums, it affects the children. Through the OECD readings, we find that not only what happens in one's own country would affect the policies or the children, but also what happens around the globe has somewhat effect on how things change in a curriculum. Thank you, everybody.
You.